Travel nursing can bring you to places you've never been before. Tell us your story.
Hi, good morning. It's Rita at Travel Nurse Channel. And it's Tuesday, and I just saw something in that commercial. I hope you like the commercial. Working on a new one, but we've still got that one going. And it says that we broadcast on Tuesday and Thursday. Well, we actually broadcast all the time on Facebook and YouTube, but we're live on Tuesday. We're no longer live on Thursday. And so I'll correct that, and you won't see that when you see the ad next time. So Travel Nurse Channel here for all things healthcare and travel related. And we sometimes have guests. Haven't had a guest in a while, so I want to invite everyone who's watching, recruiters, nurses, therapists, techs, doctors, anybody in the healthcare field, whether it's acute, subacute, long-term, emergent, clinical, home health. We are interested in talking to you and your experiences, whether you are the recruiter or the employer, whether you are the worker, the nurse, the tech. We are here to talk about what's going on. And there are a lot of opportunities, and I think more nurses trending, more nurses and techs and therapists trying out the travel life and finding it's working well for them. It's been important and at least the last 15 years, but more so in 2020 with the pandemic. And nurses that find themselves, I used to have 3 dogs, now I have 1 dog, maybe I can travel now. Or I used to have teenagers, now they're adults and they're out of the house, maybe now I can travel. So for whatever reason that you may consider travel nursing, there are many opportunities now. And I say nursing as a broad capture, but I do mean I'm talking to ultrasound techs and occupational therapists and respiratory therapists and radiation technologists. That I met many of my friends and cohorts and coworkers because they were travelers. And I did something similar. I did a lot of per diem and long-term and short-term assignments as needed, but I did it closer to home. And so I think there's a rise in that need, but there's also a rise in other, and that's the topic for today. Let me make sure if you want to comment, you can comment. It's a live video right now, and it's open to your comments and your concerns and your input. So so I met a lot of people that were travelers, and there are different reasons for traveling. And then I know many people that I worked with over the years that thought about it, didn't do it, and then tried it and did it again because they did appreciate it, and the need is there. So so what are the trends now? And I'm going to focus a little bit on nurses because I am a nurse, and because that is one of the bigger groups of travelers at the moment. Doctors do it, but doctors do it generally for a longer term. When I say travel, the average travel assignment is about 13 weeks or 90 days. And you go wherever you decide to go. And here's the other thing. With the needs being as they are, you are really in the driver's seat. So if you've always wanted to visit, I don't know, the state of Washington, the state of Florida, wherever you are, maybe you're someplace cold and you think, oh, Florida would be nice and warm, or California would be nice, although I'm in Southern California, and although it's rare, it's not out of the ordinary for us to have some cold spells. And we had hail twice yesterday in Southern California. Yep, yep, yep. And I don't even think that it needs to be at the freezing point for us to have hail. It just has to do with different winds. I don't know. I don't know meteorology. Yeah, but I don't know about the weather. I just lived through the weather, and we had hailstones, not terribly big ones, but lots of little like that ice cream, like that icy ice cream they make. That's what we had twice. We had it during the day, and then we had it when after the sun setting. Again, we have lots of winds, and anyway, it's pretty nice, but it's sweater weather. And anyway, so weather, yeah. But it's generally nice, and we do have sun every day. That window behind me is facing, let's see, kind of west, kind of an east window, and southeast or northeast, more of a northeast window. And you can see there's lots of bright light and sunshine coming through the window. So we do have a lot of sunshine in Southern California. We don't have, near the coast, we don't have a lot of the, what do we call perennial trees and so forth. We have a lot of versions of palms, and some very expensive palms. And we have some pine trees, and our ground is very, how do I get on these topics? Our ground is very loose and sandy. We're kind of a desert that meets the ocean. And so we don't have the beautiful evergreens and so forth too much. I mean, we have Yosemite and places like that, but so lots of sunshine. Yeah, not lots of tree-lined streets like you might know in the Midwest or the Northeast and so forth, and the Northwest as well. Okay, so let's talk about career paths, and let's talk about opportunities. And please call in. I'd love to hear from you and what you have to say, and what's going on with your travel assignment, or what you're thinking if you're thinking about traveling. Oh dear, sorry. I must have bumped a wire. I'm kind of a fidget person, and yeah, I don't sit quietly. So I must have touched a wire down there under my computer. So sorry about that. But what are the trends and what's going on? Well, many trends are going on. The acute setting is, oh, you know, and I've been talking about this. I'm going to start this soon, maybe in February, since we're at the end of January. And I like to start things in the middle. So next week, it will be February, and we'll start talking about the making of an ICU nurse. I'll divide it into some segments, you know, maybe make half a dozen or 10 or so segments, and talk about that, because the need for the acute, in the acute setting, is strong. I mean, there's a strong need for nurses and techs everywhere, long-term, short-term, clinic, acute, travel, of course, but because of COVID and because of the criticalness of the patients being admitted for COVID, the ICU nurses and the ER nurses, the critical care nurses, are in big demand. So we will talk more about that. And if that is something you're thinking about, and you have some nursing experience under your belt already, good time to plan that. You can start planning that from the time you start your education, actually. But so there's, an increased need for specialization, that career path. But as far as travel nursing, yes, that's a huge, huge part of the trends that are going on now in healthcare. Another trend is that nurses are retiring later. I'm like as old as dirt, and I'm still going. I'm not as clinical as I once was, and that occurred just before COVID. But it's not to say I won't be clinical again. It's part of what I've loved about my career, so it doesn't mean that's off the table. It's been off the table in the last year or two. So that's part of it. Another piece is that, so nurses are retiring later. Nurses are taking different career paths. They're specializing, and the need to specialize. We talked about ICU. ER is another one. Visiting nurse. There's names for that. Nurses that go into rural areas and take care of patients in those areas. There's a need for that. And then a big rise in telehealth. And they call that telehealth medicine, telehealth nursing. And that is becoming more and more a trend and a need. You don't always have to show up in the doctor's office. I don't think you're going to peel off your clothes and show wounds and breaks and fractures. No, you probably have to show up for some of those things. But there's a variety of other things that can be handled in that telehealth world. And there are more and more programs addressing that. So that's another thing to think about. Nursing education. The need for nurse educators is astoundingly high. And people are really stretched in all these areas, telehealth and acute care and critical care and emergent care and telehealth. And all of these areas require training. Yes, yes. So there's an increased need for nurses at the master's level, nurses at the doctorate level, and that's not going away. So, so many trends that are going to continue to shape us through the 2021 that started in 2020 and are continuing to go. Well, let's see. Gollum is saying hi. Happy to see you. You as well, Gollum. Always glad to see you. Do travel nurses get days off? Yeah, they do. It's the law. They get days off. So travel nurses generally are contracted, right? So a recruiter from a recruitment company will interview a nurse and plan for that nurse to travel wherever they're going. And in that contract, they usually discuss the days or nights that they will work, the hours, and how many hours per week. So that's planned ahead of time. Good comment there, and good question, Gollum. So do travel nurses get days off? Do travelers, travel therapists and travel techs? Yes, they should. It's the law. But in a contract, so for example, if a nurse is planning to travel and wants to make the most of that travel, wants the maximum fiscal return for it, they can have a contract that is more than 36, 40 hours a week. They can include in their contract more, particularly during these busy times. They can plan for more. Now, if you're working 12-hour shifts, which most hospitals and acute and subacute areas are generally doing those 12-hour shifts, you can plan to work in your week potentially 4 or more, okay? And 4 or more 12-hour shifts, which is going to add up to 48 or more hours, right? And how you do that, you may determine that during the contract, during the negotiation between the person recruiting that nurse and the client that wants that nurse. So that can be established ahead of time. If full-time is enough for you, then you need to write that into the contract. And if the client is really in need, they have maybe lost some staff to COVID or other circumstances, and they're in need and they really need 2 or 3 or 4 travelers, and they're only able to recruit 2, they may really be looking for that overtime in their contract. So my experience in contracts and over the years is that both parties should be able to gain something of what they need and want. So if the traveler wants to go to Florida and see the Everglades and do some sightseeing and get a tan, right? And work on their tan in the middle of January. They may be interested in full-time, maybe an occasional shift. So that would be, say, 3 12-hour shifts per week. And in a pay period of 2 weeks, maybe they're willing to do 1 or 2 extra, okay? So they could have that caveat in their contract. Full-time, 12-hour shifts times 13 weeks with with the option to do 1 or more shifts per pay period. Okay, so then they really wouldn't do more than 4 12-hour shifts a week. And I see Paul is asking, what should I look for if I want to go to nursing school? Oh yeah, we should talk about that. I'll get right to that, Paul. And then another option in your contract could be a nurse that really wants to work a lot more, is not that interested in sightseeing, is looking to maybe pay off a school loan or think about getting a new car or whatever it is that they need. They could be looking for 4 or more shifts a week. And that's fine too. There are 7 days in a week, and if you're doing 12-hour shifts, you should be resting after your shift, right? They could say willing to do 5 per week or 10 per pay period, and then the client could come back and say, well, we can give you 3 shifts in 1 week and 5 in the other, or work something out where both are kind of getting what they want and need out of it. Now, keep in mind that we're working a little harder nowadays. It's very physical. The people working in the ICUs and the ERs right now with the additional COVID situation, it's very, very physical. So if you have an intubated patient and, with a lot of oxygen needs and a lot of other neurological and medical needs, you need a team. You need a team, and it's very physical. So, so keep that in mind when you're looking for the overtime. That you may want to talk in your contract that if I do an additional shift or 2 a week, okay. So if I'm doing 12, 24, 36, I'm doing full time times 13 weeks. And I am willing to do 1 or 2 more per week. Can you do more than 3 12s in a row? Or do you need to do 2 on, 1 off, 1 on, 1 off? How do you need to do that? And do you have a say in that? Once you agree to all this overtime, do you have a say in how it pans out? So, so something to think about, because you do need, here's something nurses need reminders about. They need to self-care. They need to know when they're tired to rest. And just because you want to rest, you may not, you may not always be able to rest. So keep in mind you're going to a new place. It's not your home. It's not your bed. Things are different. So keep that all in mind. Okay, so Paul King is asking, what should I look for if I want to go to nursing school? Yeah, okay, you should go to an accredited nursing school because, and you can probably find that from the Board of Nursing in your state. I'm seeing my other computer's kind of going out on me, and it is a reference, so let's get it back up. Okay, if you're looking to go to nursing school, make sure it's an accredited nursing school. How do you find an accredited nursing school? Hopefully the internet will guide you. But most department, the boards in your states, the Board of Registered Nursing, the BRNs in your state, will be able to guide you there as far as which schools are accredited. So that's one thing. Something to think about too is that so many programs over the years, and that's why I was talking about a trend in 2020 and 2021 is the need for nursing programs, the need for advanced nursing programs. You may have noticed all this gray in my hair. Okay, I'm getting grayer by the minute, and you will start to see many more white, silver, and gray hairs on my head. I have not been to the hairdresser in a while, and it doesn't look hopeful here in Southern California, although there is some hope. Silver hair, silver linings. We'll talk about that. But as far as going to nursing school, number one thing I would say is make sure it's an accredited nursing school. And then the next thing you will be concerned about, and you may have to travel a little more than you wanted to because of the impact, because there may be waiting lists. So, for example, a friend of my daughter's, a young man who's been a surgical tech for a long time, is in the process of going to nursing school, and he is on a waiting list. But in the meantime, even though he's got some college and he has lots of great experience, he needs prerequisites. So you can maybe get some of those prerequisites out of the way, either online or through the same school where the nursing school is, same university, same college, or at another. Make sure that whatever prereqs you're taking are going to meet the needs of the program you're going to enter. So that was the second thing I was going to say, is that because the nursing schools are so impacted with the number of people wanting to go into the field, find out where the more the open opportunities are going to be for you. That you don't want to maybe be on a waiting list for 5 years, that you have a plan over the next year to get into a program. So start your search there. An accredited program where there's some open enrollment for you or in the near future, and prerequisites. Those are things that are important. What else? Loans and financing may be an issue. For me, it was and I was young, so I didn't have a whole lot of experience. But going to school and earning a living at the same time were very difficult. I stayed home as long as I could. I had younger brothers. It was time for me to leave because I was not their parent. And my mother was wonderful. That that door was always open. She never made any demands on me. She wanted me to get my education, but it was time for me to make a move. So getting educated and working at the same time is burdensome. And there were times where I had to take a break. And I was lucky I had a mom that could help me out. I could stay there when I needed to for a semester, whatever it took. And that's how I manage. If that's not how you manage, maybe you have to, spend some time at another position to earn the monies you need. But you can seek loans, you can seek scholarships, and that's another way to get yourself that advanced education that you need. Trends in nursing. Let's see if I can pull up. I had this list. 30 big trends, and this is a blog for the nursing people interested in going to nursing school. There's a massive, here's something from the blog, a massive increase on online training. So that would be helpful if you're doing the prerequisites. The Institute of Medicine, it's called the IOM, Institute of Medicine, called on all nurses to increase the percentage of workers to get that BSN, because we're probably if we're lucky, at 50% of RNs having their BSN, we want to bring that up to 80. Okay, so there's more online programs to encourage that. Oh yeah, lots of other trends. Music therapy, art therapy. Yeah, where have all the nurses gone? Yeah, what happened, I think, in the latter part of the 1900s and the early part of the 2000s is that the number of people interested in nursing decreased, and hence we had less schools, and the whole vicious cycle. The shortage of nursing schools, the shortage of people interested in nursing, everything kind of went down, and not just nursing, healthcare also. So that created that shortage, but there's always that silver lining. Then it also created a wider practice for nurses. That's something I wanted to talk about. The things that nurses can do and practice are being impacted by this change, by this shortage and so forth. So, for example, in California, our Board of Registered Nurses says that nurses, RNs, can administer the COVID vaccine. So, in other words, years ago, for example, the H1N1, you had to have a medical director. You had to have a whole team in order to do that. Now, because of the need, we see students. I mean, of course, there are guidelines. Of course, there is direction by people with more experience. But due to this shortage, nurses are now the primary, and it's not just RNs. It's RNs. It's what are they called? SN. Nursing students, student nurses, SN, student nursing RNs. At any rate, student nurses, RNs, probably LVNs as well. Pharmacist as well. What's happening? My wires are being crossed. Sorry, fidgeting and messing up the program. So the nurse practitioners, the RNs, even the student nurses, there's more duties and more practices that they can do, more opportunities going on now than ever before. So so we want to support that, the widening scope of practice for nurses, because we have the science background, we have the skills, we have the knowledge. Next step, practice. Okay, so good idea to stay in touch and aware of what's going on in your community, in your state, and in your government, in your state's government, so that you can then you can show, you can vote, show, influence what's happening, because things are changing, and the need for more advanced practice, for different the widening scope of practices that the RN can do, and other nurses as well. There's a growth and a need to continue growing the nurse practitioner. So you'll see more and more of that that started in the 90s, so that's going to continue in 2021. The higher education is going to continue. So the diversity is going to continue. And what else can we see here? Increased specialization among nurses. Let's see. Okay. RNs who specialize in various areas in higher demand than the generalist and the LVNs. The demand correlates directly with the growing number of nurses. That's been going on for quite a few years. Yeah, just like doctors. Years ago, there was the family doctor, there was the surgeon. Well, now people specialize, right? You focus on orthopedics, or you focus on neuro medicine, you focus on orthopedic, so many. Why am I not thinking of them all? But the same thing is happening with nurses. The specialization will continue, and those trends. Let's see. What else nurses can do? Don't forget about ethics. That's in there. Preventative medicine. That's right. Holistic medicine. That's going to include nurses as well. Yes. You know, that cannot be ignored because it works and it's important. And we are not just our bones for the orthopedist. You know, we are not just our nervous system for the neurologist and the neurosurgeons. We are all of us, right? We are mind and body and psyche, and our history plays a part, our genetics play a part. So all of these things come into play. And holistic medicine really looks at the whole person, you know, not just, oh, it looks like you're leaning towards hypertension, but why? What's going on in your environment? What's going on with your heritage? What's going on in your lifestyle? See, all of those things have a part in your health and why you may or may not have a, starting to see hypertension. What are you doing when you're stressed? You know, are you getting enough sleep, exercise, etc.? Paul wants to know, there appear to be many nursing schools. How long are most schools? How long will you be in those schools? Well, most nursing programs for your associate are 2 to 2.5 years. Most programs for your baccalaureate, your BS, your BSN, your Bachelor of Nursing Science, are 4 years. However, if you are willing, you can probably shorten that amount of time. So I mean, maybe taking 15 or 18 credits instead of 12. It would maybe looking to see if you've already done some college, have you met some of the requirements for the prerequisites? It's fatiguing me to even think about this, but I'm older, see? So, but a friend of mine who's a nursing professor and at the master's level, and her daughter is going to nursing school. She's taking prerequisites, and she's taking like 18 credits and working 1 or 2 jobs. Yeah, she's young. She can do it. So it depends. If you have an opportunity to get into an associate program of science for nursing, I would say do it, and then get on the waiting list for the BSN. Also, once you have your RN, you can sit for the boards with your associate or your bachelor's, depending on your program, and things to ask when you're considering a school. And maybe whoever is in need of you, maybe there's many companies, travel companies, employers, nursing employers, hospitals, long-term LTACs, long-term acute centers, will give you a education allowance because they want to encourage you. Better for you and better for them. If you're more highly educated, you have an opportunity to grow within your company, within your hospital, wherever you're working, and then they have somebody with more skills and that they can promote to higher positions. So it could be a win-win there. So if you have an opportunity to get into an accredited nursing school that's offering you an associate degree, you may want to take that, even though you want your BSN. Maybe you even want to get to your doctorate level. That's fine. But let's do what we can do now and then see where that brings us to the next level. So, yeah, locally we have a school right now that has a accelerated associate program, but they also have a bachelor's program. There are several colleges and universities nearby that have both, but there's different waiting lists for all of them. So that's something I would like to raise your awareness on, because you need to know that. You need to know that. If you want to go to school and you want to go to nursing school, you want to become a nurse, you probably don't want it to take 5 or 6 years. If you can get it done in 2 years and sit for the boards, fantastic. If there are some baccalaureate programs that are opening up near you, go for it. And if they're 4-year programs, maybe you can accelerate it. Maybe you have some units that can be applied. Maybe you can work through the summers or do some online courses. So there are different ways to shorten the wait and the time it takes you to get to your destination of becoming an RN, a licensed RN in your state, and goaling for your BSN or higher degrees. Doesn't necessarily all have to happen at the same time. You can get your associate program. I really don't think there are too many. In California, for sure, there are not diploma programs, which is where I started back east. When I started to become a nurse, I was in a nursing diploma program, which was affiliated with an associate program, but we didn't get an ASN. What I did is partway through, I switched over to the associate program. So by the time I sat for my boards and graduated, I did have my associate of Applied Science at AAS. Now they have ASN, Associate of Nursing Science. So anyway, so there are various ways to do. Good question, Paul. Various ways to do it, and the speed with which you can do it really is going to depend on what school you choose, which one is going to allow you into their program the soonest. So I'm reaching the end of my hour. I'm sorry I started a little late. I had technical difficulties. Good gravy. This lady with the gray hair has technical difficulties. I apologize, but I'm going to be here every Tuesday at 10 a.m. Maybe I should start at 9:45 and make sure I'm on at 10 instead of starting at 5 to 10 and then hitting my technical difficulties. But here at the Travel Nurse Channel, I am here for nurses that travel, techs that travel, therapists that travel, doctors, recruiters, nursing employers, all those who need travel healthcare workers. We're here. We're home away from home for those that are traveling, to talk about familiar things, unfamiliar things, new trends. We're here for you. You can check in, you can dial in and be live with me, and we can have a discussion on Tuesdays between 10 and 11 Pacific Standard Time. Or you can tune in anytime you want. There's lots and lots of episodes and videos archived in YouTube and Facebook. So anytime. You can call me and you can email me as well. So you can call me at 800-737-6518. You can email me at rita@travelnursechannel.com. And I appreciate you viewing, and I'd love to hear from you. Your comments are valuable to yourself and to others. Your questions, if I can answer them, I'll answer them right away on air. If not, I'll get back to you in the very next video with an appropriate answer. But I will tell you, in 2021, you are needed. You are appreciated, and there are new trends, more opportunities for nurses and healthcare workers, particularly in the travel realm, but in general, right? You're going to have more, well, I'm reviewing. There's more need for education. There's more need for a variety of practices that were not in our scope, that are being added to our scope out of need. There's a huge need for ICU nurses and specialty nurse practitioners, the emergency nurses, and I'm going to talk about that, the building of an ICU nurse, an ICU nurse traveler, because that's a huge need right now. So let's discover that together. Let's take it from A to Z there. And I'll start that in February, which is coming up because it's already the 26th. Oh my God. So 26th of January. So stay well. I will be tuning in again next week. And thank you very much for tuning in. I'll ride out of here with our cute little commercial. Thank you.
Travel nursing can bring you to places you've never been before. Tell us your story.